And we're live. Let me just go into the intro here. Oh man, I just love that intro. I can just have it on loop. It's so damn catchy. So this is episode 76, and Nicole's going to be joining us in a minute, but we're joined by James, who's been on the show before, all the way from the UK. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. And I have exactly the same feeling about the intro. I absolutely love it. It's probably one of my favorite introductions ever. It just gets you pumped, but it's just great to listen to. Now, and that's not me, in case anyone wonders, that's not me having a go against the old intro we use on our podcast, but I'm going to say Reels and Heels probably has one of the coolest and most catchy. It's seriously good. And you're right. It's the sort of thing you could have going on just as to listen to in your car. It'd be great driving music.
Yeah. And if you, that's just the shortened version of the intro, but if you go on YouTube, you can hear the whole song. And there's like a guitar solo that's like awesome. Like it's just one of those songs, I guess, if those that go to the gym and work out, it's something that you can listen to.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So James has coffee just like I do.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've been very rude on the fact that I'm just drinking coffee, but it's late in the evening. I have been at work today, hence why I'm dressed the way I am. So it's Brian and I were discussing this. It's the UK, so at the moment we're in winter. It's dark, it's cold, it's miserable. You end up feeling very tired. So in my case, my diet consists of large quantities of caffeine to just keep me fueled throughout the day and into the evening. I'll never be able to stop drinking coffee. We discussed earlier, Brian, and the fact that I managed to quit smoking many moons ago. Coffee drinking will not. I don't think unless there's like a medical reason, I cannot see me not drinking it.
What's your go-to coffee? Is it just straight black? Do you have like a type of roast?
I generally have straight black coffee, just say when I'm at work. But my preferred favorite is the blue Jamaican coffee, which you can get, but it is rather on the expensive side. So it's more of a treat. But generally, from like a day-to-day coffee that I have at home, I go with a French roast, but kind of a strong blend of it that I can go for. The stronger the better for me. But yeah, the ultimate favorite that if I had unlimited funds would be Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee.
Oh yes, that is really good. The first time I actually had that was when I went to Jamaica. I think that kind of started me on my love fest with coffee, and I was 16 when my mom took me there. And the coffee in Hawaii is good too. The Hawaiian coffee.
I've heard that. Yeah. So what was Jamaica like? Because I've always wanted to go, but it's obviously pandemic, etc. It's not happening. It may happen in the future. Who knows?
But well, I'm sure it hasn't changed much since I went. But think of if you've seen pictures of like Hawaii or any tropical island. I mean, that's what it really is. It's very beautiful. The way the mountains are with like, it could be sunny, but like you could still have like the cloud coverage at the top of the mountains. It's very majestic looking. The beaches were very white. The water was so clear that you could like see like if there was fish and stuff. And then of course there's a lot of other things that we won't talk about on my trip to Jamaica.
Okay, yeah, no problem. It's definitely on the bucket list for me, though. Definitely on the bucket list amongst other travel things I would like to try. I'm hoping that, I was going to say COVID's winding down, but it's not really winding down. But maybe in the fullness of time when it winds down a little bit more, I'll be able to get traveling again, because there are places I need to go and people I definitely need to see.
Yeah. Well, I have this one story. I can kind of clean it up a little bit. So, like I said, I was 16 and we were staying at an all-inclusive hotel. And the way that these resorts are, they're huge. They have huge acreage, but usually they're next to another resort. So the resort that was next to us is called Hedonism, which is like a couples only resort.
Yeah.
And it's clothing optional. So I mean, I didn't know. Like, I'm 16, I didn't know. So like I'm walking the sidewalk, and their sidewalks, like they connect, so you can walk right into the other property. And I heard people splashing around in a swimming pool. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go see what's going on. And it's two guys and two girls, and the girls are up on the guys' shoulder, and they're not wearing their tops, and they're like playing like chicken. Yeah, that's what it. Yeah. I was like, oh, and then I'm like, okay, and like being 16, I'm seeing topless women. And then I'm kind of like, yeah, I need to turn around. And then like when I was going back, apparently I went the wrong way and I went to their nude beach. So yeah.
Are you sure that was a mistake?
Well, now that I think about it, maybe not, but it's just a nice segue. As I said, it was a couples resort. We got Valentine's Day coming up.
We have.
Yeah. And throughout cinematic history, there's been a lot of romantic comedies and romance films. Yeah. And I thought, to go with the theme of the holiday, I should put that in quotations, holiday.
Yeah.
That we talk about this subject. And man, one of the actors that comes to mind when I think of like the romantic comedies, I think of Tom Hanks.
Yeah. I kind of it's an obvious one, because I mean it's almost like I did the mind reading point. I was like, but he's going to say Tom Hanks, because the thing that kind of you forget now when you look at Tom Hanks' body of work is that a lot of his stuff is now dramatic, and you forget that his earlier on stuff was comedy. So the stuff he did a lot earlier, the stuff he became very known for earlier on was romantic comedies. So that you had the stuff like, The Sleepless in Seattle, The Joe versus the Volcano.
You've Got Mail.
Yeah, You've Got Mail is one of my favorite films, and I love that originally came from, which was The Shop Around the Corner, which is a film that I watch every Christmas. Love that. And obviously, the other person you really link in when it comes to Tom Hanks' stuff is you'll think of Meg Ryan.
Yes.
Who was the poster girl. If you have Tom Hanks as the poster guy for the romantic comedy for a period in time, Meg Ryan was the poster girl for the romantic comedy sort of films. But it's interesting when you mentioned You've Got Mail, that I was reading, because I watched that, I'd watched Shop Around the Corner around Christmas, and I was on Amazon, and You've Got Mail was on. So I thought, I've not seen this for a while, click, put it on. And I was reading up on things about it after I'd watched it, and Meg Ryan isn't a huge fan of that film. Which surprised me. And she was saying it's because she felt that the character didn't stretch her enough. She didn't sort of like really feel that she was doing anything with it, which I understand, because if you think about it, she for a while was just coming off a cycle of doing things like that.
Yeah.
And probably felt it wasn't doing much for her.
Yeah. Now, what pairing did you like more? Did you like them in Sleepless in Seattle, or did you like You've Got Mail?
Well, it gets interesting, because to give you a bit of historic context for me, Sleepless in Seattle is what I would have seen way before You've Got Mail. Obviously, I mean, in the time frame of seeing them anyway, because one came after the other. But I didn't see You've Got Mail until many, many years later, when a girl I was going out with at the time was like, "You need to see this film. It's good." And this is years after it came out. It never been on my radar. But Sleepless in Seattle was one that I saw at the cinema. I actually when I was very young with my grandmother. But I probably preferred them in You've Got Mail because I don't know, it worked better for me as a film to see, I guess. Around the time, and obviously with internet and things like that. So yeah, I think I preferred the pairing in that. And then further from that, I then found out what it came from, which is Shop Around the Corner. And to be honest, I probably watch Shop Around the Corner now more than watch You've Got Mail. But when you watch, what I do find very interesting, and I will let you speak, Brian, I promise, is the fact that when you watch You've Got Mail, it's watching the old technology, which is interesting, but it's also the one question I always ask myself is, there was no Wi-Fi when this film was made, so how are they all getting online? They all just in rooms with laptops, not plugged into anything. When in reality, you'd hear a modem screeching up, and it'd be plugged in on a cable somewhere.
Oh man, do you remember those days? Oh, those annoying sounds. You're like waiting like 30 minutes for it to connect.
Yeah.
And then you wake up and you got a full beard. So we talk about Meg Ryan. We have to talk about When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, I watched that.
And of course, everyone refers to the scene, and you know what scene I'm talking about.
Interesting. I watched When Harry Met Sally probably about a week ago, after years of not seeing it, and I just laughed throughout. I think I probably found it more funny now rewatching it as I've got older than I probably did when I was younger. The famous diner scene, which I probably watched in the past with just, okay, this is kind of like, bit humorous. I was laughing my ass off watching that recently.
I mean, that scene alone has been turned into too many like GIFs and memes, over the years. Yeah. Oh, Nicole's joined us.
Hello, Nicole.
Hello.
How are you doing? How are you?
Doing well.
Yeah.
I'm tired, but so sleepy.
That I know that feeling all too well. So hence this.
Yep.
So what are some of the romantic films that you can think offhand that are kind of like a go-to, especially during this weekend?
Well, I don't watch any.
Well, your favorite is 10 Things I Hate About You.
My absolute favorite is 10 Things I Hate About You, but coming in a second and a very like interesting second is Say Anything with John Cusack. And then
I don't think I've seen that actually.
It's the one where he holds the boombox over his head.
I'm gonna have to. I should really be like, flame myself because it's a big 80s film and I've never seen that. I know it. I know what it is, but I've never seen it. But yeah,
I didn't see it until I was quite a bit older, and then
oh yeah, Willow's. That's a good one.
Oh yeah,
I like that one too.
Isn't that where she's alcoholic though?
I don't know.
That's a bit of a depressing one. Hello, Willow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong on that one. I think I think I might have it mixed up, but I think is that the one with the?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure that I may have the wrong film, but I think there's one where she's alcoholic. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like people when they think romance films, they think they're just all rom-coms. Like there's a lot of films with romantic elements.
Yes.
That are not comedies, but for the majority of them, they are romantic comedies.
Well, I think really most of us is if we really enjoy, if we enjoy movies, I think a lot more people enjoy romantic comedies as opposed to full-fledged dramas, just because it pokes a little bit of fun at love. And if you've ever been in love, you know that it really is funny. Like, romance is hilarious. Like, especially if you're in a romance with the person that makes complete sense for you to be with, because there's no reason for you not to laugh at it, because you're just like, oh my God, like, yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. She says it's a depressing one.
When you say about the thing that most people look at it and think it's romantic comedy, my ultimate romance film that I will watch. It's not a romantic comedy though. It borders almost going to probably science fiction, which is Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour, and that is a film that I deep dive that one. I've got the various different versions it came out, and I've got the soundtrack. I've got the novel it was based on. And that is like one of the ultimate, to me, romantic things you can watch. And as a man, I will happily admit this. Niagara Falls. I can watch that and it will break me.
Yeah, and and don't be embarrassed by that, because it's good. There's a lot of people that say it's good for a man to cry. And we're all human. It doesn't matter, male, female. I mean, even the tough ones that say they don't cry, they cry.
I cry all the time.
Oh, I'll happily admit it. I cry at the drop of a hat watching films. Ghostbusters, Afterlife, within 5 minutes, and pretty much throughout the entire film, I just cried through most.
Yeah. This is a good one too. Princess Bride.
Yeah, I actually hadn't, again, on it was interesting when you mentioned 10 Things I Hate About You, because both that and Princess Bride are things I'd never ever seen. I knew about them until we reviewed them on the podcast, and they're great. I love both of them. They were really good. Princess Bride, I thought, was just bonkers, brilliantly bonkers. But yeah, what a great film.
Well, great cast on both films. Yeah.
And with Princess Bride, I think what made it, I don't know what made it timeless. And maybe the story, maybe because there was humor in it, maybe because there were so many lines from the movie that just like pervade throughout pop culture, but also is that it didn't go away.
I mean, Ryan Reynolds brought it back in his friendly version of Deadpool Part 2.
Yeah.
So,
but it was you saw it everywhere. Like even when I was young when it came out, so I probably didn't see it when it came out, or even first 10 years it was out, probably. But it became like part of pop culture. So I heard about it and everything, and so we would say things.
It had one of those famous iconic VHS covers. Every time you go to the video store.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
But that's the thing. You're right. It's quotable. It's quotable, and you may not even know. You may not have known it was in the film, but you would somehow have heard the quote and been aware of it. And that's real sticking.
Yeah, and it's so funny because when I got into Criminal Minds, I was like, he looks very familiar. Yeah. Yes, he was in Princess Bride. And it's so funny because I've seen a lot of people that didn't even know that was the same person.
And he doesn't look the same. That's the whole thing. Is over a course of decades, it's changed quite a bit. But it was interesting to watch him in other stuff because I
linking to other rom-coms. Billy Crystal's in that as well, isn't it? In The Princess Bride. So yeah, it all kind of comes full circle, really. Which I just. But it also, would that not then link into probably the reason why he was in When Harry Met Sally? Because it's the same director, isn't it?
I believe so. Probably, but Billy Crystal, he was a hot commodity, through the 80s and then into the early 90s. Which led him to be a multiple host of the Oscars.
Yeah.
And to this day, a lot of people say he's probably the, if not the best Oscar host in history.
Hey.
The other one being Steve Martin.
Yeah. I mean, I always liked Billy Crystal's because I was thinking that recently when I watched, looking at, we're discussing romantic films now, but when I rewatched When Harry Met Sally, I was thinking, isn't it interesting that we never saw him paired with Meg Ryan again? Because they worked well. He did, and there were other romantic films that he made. Because I think Bill Crystal did, was it Forget Paris? I think he also did that. It's a romantic film.
I believe that's another film that he was in. Yeah, Forget Paris.
It's interesting that you never saw him re-teamed with Meg Ryan, because you think, because you always saw the thing everyone's used to, which is the idea of Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks.
Yeah, because Forget Paris was him and Deborah Winger.
Yeah. So you would think that they would have the lightning in the bottle that worked with When Harry Met Sally. You think they would have tried redoing something like that, but clearly it didn't. It didn't happen.
It's
But it
interesting
was.
that didn't work out.
It's always interesting when you see where films what they kind of build from, because we said about the thing of like the Princess Bride became this really big thing, and just going back to like looking at something like Summer in Time. Um, it astounded me to see how big that was as a film. Because going back, we talk about the old thing of going online, the old internet dial-up. So I go on and look for information about a film, and you get a Yahoo page telling you a bit about the history of a film, which is what I expected to find with Summer in Time. One page. There's an international fan site for it. People go to the hotel where it was filmed to do a Summer in Time weekend. Actors from the series have been to it. They do recreation stuff. And I actually chat to it's Richard Matheson story. It's one of his novels, but I chat to his daughter. I've got to know his daughter through this stuff, and it's just amazing how big, how huge this thing is. And it's when I fell in love with Jane Seymour, and still am in love with Jane Seymour. So.
Oh,
if
Jane Seymour, yeah.
If you watched, I grew up in Michigan, and so I was born the year the movie came out, by the way. Okay. So I had never seen it until I was a lot older, and I'd gone to Mackinac Island, and by being there and like looking at some of the shops, it was a huge big deal because it was filmed there and at the Grand Hotel. And so when you first like see how mega popular it is in a town that you've been to multiple times and never even understood. But my first boyfriend was a huge fan of the movie, and he's like, "You haven't seen it?" And I'm like, "No." And
I forgot William H. Macy was in there, like before he was a big name.
Yeah. You gotta see this movie. And so we went and we watched the movie, and I was like, it was so well done and so interesting. And I was like, I wasn't ever into big into science fiction movies, but that was the first one I loved. And then of course I had to decide to love Christopher Reeve. And
can we talk about Christopher Reeve for a minute? Who's a phenomenal actor. And I'm glad that he was picked for Superman, because he was known but not known when he got cast as Superman. I think he was much better than Superman. Like, it seemed like he got, like, that's all he was known for. I wanted to see him blow up. Like, I know he was in things after Superman, but it just seemed like he never reached that peak.
I feel like it was a catch-22, that role was, because it was a role that made him famous, but it's also the role that kept him where he was.
Yeah.
He was a name.
No, I'd agree.
He was a household name, but he never became,
because he did that remake, that horror remake with Kirstie Alley, The Village of the
Damned. Yeah.
He just never became a household name, but he didn't become, the actor that we thought he would, because he didn't become the next Tom Cruise. He became.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if that horse accident.
The next Tom Cruise, but Tom Cruise happened after him. Sorry.
I'm just thinking, like, if that horse accident never happened, like, what could have been? Like, I think throughout the 90s and to the 2000s, I think we would have seen Christopher. I mean, I personally think, because the way the times have changed, I think he would have had an Oscar or two.
Yeah. I think he probably would have seen a career resurgence, because obviously as he would have got older, you probably would have seen him going to more interesting, the more mature roles. He probably would have ended up becoming a very big guy. I could see him becoming a character actor. I could see him getting into that and becoming sort of more established pieces. But it is a shame, because as you said, and I guess it happens with people when they play James Bond, things like that, you become stuck. Whatever you do, whatever else you will do, you are going to be that role. And it will stick with you inevitably. And some people manage to break away from it and do other things. But you are correct, because, it's what he got stuck with. There are worse things to be stuck with, but you are right.
Yeah, and it's funny you had brought up the whole comparison with James Bond. I mean, Daniel Craig and Sean Connery aside, all the other actors, that's all they're known for.
Yeah, and it's a damn shame because if you look at the acting ability, I mean, my favorite Bond is Timothy Dalton. So if you look at him, he's a really good Shakespearean actor, but from a film standpoint, he never really lifted off. I mean, he's doing well now on TV things like playing the Chief on Doom Patrol when he was in Penny Dreadful. So he's seeing a resurgence in that form. But some of his films, it's never become anything as big as, well, yeah, Daniel Craig seems to have survived and gone off to other stuff, and Pierce Brosnan's done it a bit, but even his stuff's been a bit hit and miss. Who knows? He's going to be in Black Adam as is it Dr. Fate, so it might completely give his career a boost. That was an unexpected thing.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Timothy Dalton's career here.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I hate her voice, The Beautician and the Beast, I thought was a pretty.
With Fran Drescher, yeah.
Yes.
I hate her so much.
Yeah, her voice is so annoying. Oh my god!
I enjoy Pierce Brosnan. I enjoy his work. He was amazing in Mrs. Doubtfire. I loved.
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan
was good in Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah.
So, but I do want to mention, I never saw the book that Somewhere in Time is based off of is called Bid Time Return.
Bid Time Return, yeah.
And it's by the author that also wrote What Dreams May Come.
Yeah.
And it's not really a love movie. It's not really a love story, but What Dreams May Come is about. It had Robin Williams in it.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't Cuba Gooding Jr. in that movie as well?
Yes, and Annabella Sciorra, but it was about he dies and goes to heaven, and he has to descend to hell to rescue his wife. But there's this whole understanding of death as not the end, because the energy we put into love transcends that. And so
I see what you're saying. It kind of fits into
the book is nowhere near even comparable to the movie, because the movie is so different, but it was kind of the point was there. The energy we put into really loving somebody, truly loving somebody. If we talk about how, that we don't die, our energy doesn't die, can neither be made nor destroyed, can neither be created nor destroyed. Then if that's a scientific law that we know, then what happens to the energy that we put into love? All philosophically stated, is probably a lot like what is in his book. And I think that is a huge, the movie blew my mind, and I've only been able to watch it once because I cried so hard and was so spent after watching it. So,
yeah. What about when we had all those teen romantic comedies of the late 90s, early 2000s? So you had
She's All That.
10 Things I Hate About You. Yeah, 10 Things I Hate About You came out right in that same time.
Well, in 10 Things I Hate About You was that resurgence where a lot of those teen movies were adaptations of Shakespeare's work.
Oh, Can't Hardly Wait was another one.
So they made the whole Romeo and Juliet adaptation with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And then they were well, the language really didn't fit.
Money.
They didn't change. They didn't change anything.
Money.
But they're well, this works. Let's take the story and put it in the time period, the very timeless 90s. And that's how we got 10 Things I Hate About You, which is based on The Taming of the Shrew. So that was my favorite play it's my favorite Shakespeare play.
Blast from the Past.
Blast from the Past.
Yes, Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah,
and Alicia Silverstone.
Yes, love that film. Love it. I mean, you could also would you say Clueless is a romantic comedy?
Yeah. She's not falling in love with the right person.
But Clueless is because Clueless is from what was that an adaptation of? Come on, James, think. Was it Jane Eyre? It's supposed to be an adaptation.
Something.
Well, that's I think I think it might be because you brought up Timothy Dalton, who starred in that film in 1983.
He was, but I'm sure, actually that's true. Yeah. My God, it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
But the interesting question I want to ask you is, what do you consider a really bad? Because we've looked at what we like as romantic comedies. What would you consider a really bad one that you thought, oh my God, this is painful, this is unwatchable?
Oh.
Or was it disappointment?
Well,
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to think about that. What do you?
I don't know if you'd say it's a romantic comedy, but I wasn't exactly sold on the. I liked the first Bridget Jones film. I liked the second one, but the final one that was done just didn't really tick all the boxes for me. It didn't. I don't know. I mean, Bridget Jones was never really my sort of thing, but I did like. I watched the first one just because it was like, this could be interesting. Everyone's saying it's great, and the second one I watched just because I liked the first one, but the third one did nothing for me. It didn't. It wasn't awful, but
I got one that came to mind.
The pairing of like the pairing of Hugh Grant and Renee Zellweger, I think, was a good pair.
Yeah.
And I enjoy both
the cast
of them,
and the performances. Maybe the script.
I don't think they needed a third one, but I think maybe they just wanted to round it out because it was a trilogy of books.
Yeah. Who else was in that? The guy from Kingsman was in it too,
right? Colin Firth was in it.
Firth.
Yeah. I mean, it's not awful. I'm not saying it's a terrible, turgid thing to watch, but it just wasn't one of the all timers for me that kind of gets your.
I got one that came to mind. It was an okay movie, but I was a bit disappointed in it. Music and Lyrics. Hugh Grant is in there.
I've only you're right. Yeah, I've only watched it once. It wasn't. Yeah, it's
kind of flat.
It's okay. It's watchable.
Pardon the pun.
He was like a big, huge pop star. Like they were riffing off of Wham. So like his character was like the George Michael, and then he kind of fizzled out and ends up being like a professor or something, or a teacher. Yeah, it was all right.
I did like the fake song in it. Is it the Pop Goes My Heart thing?
Yes.
One of my friends got me into that. He kept playing it all the time. But yeah, it's catchy, sort of harmless bubblegum stuff. But yeah, the interesting thing is, obviously there was like a big push for romantic comedies of a type, I guess, in the 80s, which probably was sort of like maybe the teen romantic comedy sort of thing, and romance films saw a resurgence in the 90s with, as you were saying. But do you think we're going to see a big push for them now? Is this the sort of thing that, because I mean, whether I'm totally out of the loop now or what's...
Well, I mean, if you look at someone like Jennifer Lopez, she's been, she's a versatile actress. I mean, she's done stuff. What is the one, Enough?
Yeah.
She did that one.
Yeah.
And
the one where she's the teacher and she has to deal with
the boy next door.
Yeah.
The boy next
door. And what was the one? Angel Eyes, right?
Angel Eyes.
Yeah. And then, of course, recently, yesterday, Marry Me, which is based on a comic I didn't even know. She did Made in Manhattan, and then she did another movie which I can't remember, and then this one, Marry Me. She did Second Act, which I picked up at Big Lots recently. That came out in the last couple of years.
But she hasn't done
I had no idea Marry Me is a comic book, though.
I just found this out when I was watching John Campea this week. Robert Meyer Burnett had brought it up. And I was like,
different.
Oh, I didn't know. And so I Googled it. Yeah, it's based on a comic.
Well, I'm going to throw now. Interesting. We talk about stuff. So romantic films, not necessarily romantic comedies, but romantic films. And we were just discussing the Batman. So would we consider using Mr. Pattinson and his starting out big point? Are the Twilight films romantic films?
I guess they're like teen romance. Because, I mean, really, it's a young adult book. Mm-hmm. And so kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the fact that it was...
And then, 50 Shades was started as Twilight fan fiction.
Yeah. Weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
How weird is that? Did that span off? I've never seen them, but I did read where I used to work. Somebody had left one of the books, and I thought I'm going to read a few lines because everyone kept saying how really poorly written 50 Shades was. I was like, yeah, this isn't good.
And we've seen all three films. Well, now, if you take the sex stuff out,
if you take the sex stuff out, you got nothing.
There's
a rich guy that's like
5 minutes of film
gaslighting a girl.
Well, but there is a deeper thing there.
I mean, the greatest part of it is seeing a half-dressed Jamie Dornan. I mean, like,
hey, whatever. I don't see it for that ability, but hey, I'm not knocking anyone who's in for that, who wanted to watch it for that reason. Whatever works for the viewer.
And it's just they weren't. I don't feel like they were the best actors. And maybe that's why, because they weren't the best actors playing a not very well written book. And I read the book. Oh, I read the first
I don't know.
one. I didn't read all three, but I read the first one.
I think they're both great actors. I just think
they were for the role,
or what they were working with wasn't the greatest.
But I also feel the exact same way about Twilight. So for me, Twilight was flat. Like, I only read it because my kids were reading it. And if anybody has watched the show, they know well enough that I love vampire everything. Like, if it's a vampire thing, Angel is my top go-to, like, vampire thing. Buffy the Vampire Slayer before the one with Luke Perry in it. Like, I've seen every vampire movie there's possible, except for Nosferatu, the series, the new series. I haven't seen that. But, like, I've seen, like, literally every vampire thing. So my kids were reading Twilight in class, and I was like, well, I guess I better jump on the bandwagon so I know what they're reading. And I read it. It took me 18 months to read this book. And I'm like, God help me. I hate this.
Sparkly vampires.
And then I'm like, okay. So and then I read New Moon. And after I read New Moon, I was like, okay, well, I can get behind New Moon, which everybody said was their least favorite book. But I was like, it was my most favorite book because it talked about werewolves, which was way more interesting because there was a whole lot more lore. And so I loved that book. And I didn't care for either of the movies, really, because I felt like they were kind of... They're just really, really pretty people that didn't really have a lot of acting. Like, I just didn't feel like it was well acted.
Right. And then I think... that's where people got lost on Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
And ignored him for the last 10 years because all they saw was Twilight.
Yeah, but if you had seen Remember Me and you saw...
Oh, Remember Me. That
if you saw a lot of the stuff that he did in Britain.
Yes.
Like, I mean, he was even good in Harry Potter. Like, I mean, it's a very small role, but he was good in that movie. He was
also... Sorry, go on. Sorry, Nicole.
What was the name of that movie that he was in?
Well, I
mean, it's a ghost.
The Airman.
Yeah, was that what it was?
Something Airman. Yeah.
It was
like a
British produced.
It was like a straight to video type
thing.
I
think so. I think it was on TV actually. I think it was a miniseries or something on TV. And I had read about it and I was like, well, I guess I should probably check this out considering this guy's in Twilight. Let's see what's up. And he is actually really good in that too.
Yeah. And then
he's incredible in Remember Me.
We were in Vegas and we went to that film festival. We saw the movie that he directed.
And that was a good movie too.
Oh, right. So he's done directing as well. I mean, that's the thing. You've got to give him credit. He's better than that
bright
role.
spots. Like there's
the Lost City of Z. He was fantastic in that. Rover, and then of course everyone says the Lighthouse.
I think we get caught up in one or two things that somebody does, and we don't give them credit for the other things that have happened. And granted, I mean, what was the most popular thing that he was in? Like Twilight. So that's what people are going to know him from. I just think it's too bad. Now, am I going to enjoy the Batman movie? Probably.
Well, what is that one that he did with Reese Witherspoon? That was based on a book.
Water for Elephants.
Yeah.
Do you know, I've not seen that, but when you talk about his ability to do other things, it's a film that it's not my all-time favorite, but Tenet he's good in that. It's a good, it's a damn weird film, Tenet, but it's nowhere near as enjoyable for me as watching Inception, but it's good, and he is good in it. He was making that when he went off and did his audition for the Batman, and I can kind of see when I watched Tenet, I thought, yeah, I can see more as Bruce Wayne. I can see why they would look at him.
To make it full circle, though, you bring up Tenet. We're talking about Robert Pattinson. Yeah. When he was filming that movie, he got offered the role of Batman.
Yeah.
And Christopher Nolan told him to do it.
Right. Well, I've gathered what he also did when he was making it is he said to Christopher Nolan, right, I can't be in, sort of thing. I've got a family emergency. And Christopher Nolan looked at him and went, "You're going to the Batman audition, aren't you?" So she was like, right, so I can't lie. Yeah, I am going.
I think we pigeonhole people. Like we were talking about Christopher Reeve not too long ago.
Spot on.
Honestly, I really think that we can only see certain people as certain people. And then when they do something outside of that.
Well, that's what happens with, it's kind of a full circle thing with the Batman in general. Like starting with the 80s when Michael Keaton was just doing comedies, Gung Ho and Beetlejuice and what was the other, Mr. Mom. They're like, he's there was no internet back then.
Mr. Mom's gonna be Batman.
So people were writing letters of death threats or whatever to Warner Brothers.
But
it is interesting though, because I remember watching a few years ago, I was watching Batman Returns. It's one of my go-to Christmas films. And I was watching with my father, and I was saying it's the scene where you see Keaton, as Bruce Wayne go into the boardroom and he's talking to, Chris Walken's Max Schreck. And I said, it's interesting looking at him, the physicality of him, because he's not a particularly big guy, against like the man mountain that is Ben Affleck. And I can see why when people would initially look at Keaton, they'd be like, this guy's Batman, but he pulled it off. He was very good. So,
and when you think about it, like for me, I've watched every single like recent incarnation of Batman, and you think, well, it always seemed like one of them was better, like he was better suited for one or the other. So, like for me, Val Kilmer was a far better.
You might have to take care
Batman than he was a Bruce Wayne. But I felt like Keaton was the all-time Bruce Wayne.
You go take care of those boys.
I'm going to go beat my coat.
Parenting.
Yeah.
Stop.
Parenting. The joys of parenting. But yeah, it's interesting on like romantic comedies that it's also interesting when you see people you wouldn't expect I keep saying romantic comedies, but romantic films in general. But I guess we pigeonhole them as comedies. When you see like people who you would unexpectedly, you wouldn't have thought ever going into them to do them. When it flips on the head from people who you'd thought might do action. It's like when you see, say, someone like Nick Cage, whose career was, he maybe started out doing comedy a bit more. Then he's seen in romantic films like, It Could Happen to You, which is like one of my all-time favorite films. And you see him doing the Christmas.
Was it Wild at Heart?
Yeah, so that's what I mean. It's this total different jump you see of him doing films. And then he became an action star when he was like at one stage the biggest guy ever when he was doing like Con Air and Face Off and things like that. Which is again around the time they looked at him and going on to the superhero thing, when they looked at him potentially for playing Superman, which I still think could have been a brilliant film. Odd, but brilliant. But then like for a romantic film, It Could Happen to You. I love it. absolutely brilliant film. I could say another one that I can rewatch again and again and again. The idea of somebody splitting a lottery ticket with someone.
Yeah, what's the other one that Nick Cage did? Family Man?
And that's the Christmassy one, yeah.
Yeah.
With Tia Leone,
yeah. So let's take it back a few years. This is a film that a lot of people put on their all-time favorites. His Girl Friday.
I know it, but I've never seen it.
Cary Grant, Rosalind Russell. This was from 1940.
Wow.
This is I'm reading this article from Good Housekeeping magazine, and they have like 60 movies on here that are like romance type movies. And it says this movie is the very definition of a screwball romantic comedy with a rat-a-tat dialogue and snappy patter that keeps viewers on their toes. It's also a comedy of remarriage, as it's about a newspaper reporter who wants to stop his ex-wife and one-time protege from getting married to a bland insurance broker.
Don't look at him.
But again, it's like what we said about the going back on the time frame. We probably try and focus more for our age and what we know on like the 80s onward stuff. But if you are going back, like you said, Phil, look at something like, as I said, like, Shop Around the Corner is an older film, or the film like, say, Move Over Darling with Doris Day and James Garner. You're going back into like the 60s. I mean, you've got even earlier on things like Shop Around the Corner, but these are like the romantic comedies that again I will watch happily, things like Move Over Darling and Shop Around the Corner. But yeah, it shows that it's a tried and tested formula, I guess, that has worked well.
Then sit over there.
Yeah. Well, here's a film that people talk about and they say quite possibly is Jim Carrey's best, Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it's when you started to see him doing more sort of proper, straight, dramatic work, didn't you? That kind of jump, I guess, like not as successful, but it's like the Tom Hanks style of things, going from comedy into something with more drama. And you have seen Carey doing that more often.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's like Moonstruck. We were talking about Nicolas Cage.
God, yeah, I'd never thought of that. Moonstruck. Yeah, that's a hell of a film. Yeah, because didn't Cher get an Oscar for that as well?
Yes.
Wow. God, yeah. How did I forget Moonstruck?
Here's something that I actually love this film, and I think that the two actors work well, and that's While You Were Sleeping.
Yes. God, I've not seen that for so long. I've not seen that film for so long, but yeah. God,
and that came out in 95, so that came out right around the same time as like, they were doing the whole When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle and all that.
And isn't Bill Pullman in Sleepless in Seattle? I'm sure he's the Jill. Yeah. He's who Meg Ryan leaves.
Yeah.
At least we're finding the interconnection. If we can get Kevin Bacon in there, we can do 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Love and Basketball is another film.
Not one I know, I'm afraid.
This is from 2000. It's about a childhood sweethearts. It has Omar Epps. He plays next door neighbors who.
Sanaa Lathan and Omar Epps. They're next door neighbors that fell in love. Yeah.
And they both have ambitions
to play professional ball.
Yeah.
It's not exactly what I thought would be the sort of thing you make a romantic film about, though. But hey, 2 people playing ball. But hey.
Yeah, they fall in love with each other over something that they love.
Makes sense, actually, if you look at it that way. Yeah.
Now, this one is one of, like, as soon as I saw this one, this shot up to one of my favorites, and that's Always Be My Maybe. which is a Netflix original with Randall Park and Ali Wong.
You're gonna have to tell me about it, Brian. I'm sorry, it's not one that has even hit the radar for me.
Okay, so it's a 2019 film. Comedian Ali Wong, she directs this movie. She also plays Sasha Tran, a celebrity chef who returns home to San Francisco to open a restaurant. Of course, she runs into her childhood BFF, Marcus Kim, who's played by Randall Park, whose life hasn't exactly gone to plan. Sparks fly, Batner follows, and so does plenty of drama. Now, he's always had a thing for her since they were like in elementary school, and just never got the chance to tell her. And so when they meet up, you know, when she's this famous celebrity chef in San Francisco, it's on Netflix. You need to watch. I highly recommend anybody who has not seen this movie to go watch it.
I'm definitely going to have a look for it. But what I always find interesting in the romantic films is where it's been someone who's been longing, panning for somebody. And in these films, invariably, they will get together. But wouldn't it be interesting if we have had a film where the person who pines for the person is destroyed? Where it doesn't work out, just to sort of see a bit more of what you might consider a reality thing. I know I'm saying I'd be really nasty and sadistic, but you know how like the love from afar thing. There must be a film somewhere that's been made where that doesn't work out. And I keep seeing one that pops up on Facebook where it is about a guy who fancies this girl. He goes to it and she like basically runs off with some other guy.
Well, there's a movie that's sort of like that. But I mean, at the end, it kind of does work out for them. But for most of the film, and that's Ryan Reynolds' Just Friends.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to have to look for that because I've not seen it. I mean, I was going to say Pretty in Pink kind of has that a little bit at the end, doesn't it? Because she runs off with the other guy.
But Just Friends, Ryan Reynolds, when he was younger, was this fat kid, and it was always made fun of, and the girl always stuck up for him, but like they never hooked up. And then so like flash forward, this movie came out 2005, so this is before he was huge.
Yeah,
this was when he was on his rise, and so they meet up, and like he looks like, you know, of course, Ryan Reynolds. He's not in a fat, not fat no more, and looks good and stuff, and he's still just the best friend.
I'm going to have a look for that one. That does sound interesting, but I'm going to also have to work out what the one is where they keep posting memes of this poor, like, heartbroken young lad. This teenager who's like, it's like he's had his heart ripped from his chest. I think it's one from the 80s where he sees the girl has got with the instead of him is with this boy she likes. He's probably like the jock or something. So it's But I mean, I think what probably we also like about seeing romantic films is the element of people being in love when it's going right, and I guess the element of where it's beyond reality. You know, where everything does go perfectly according to plan in most of these films. You know, like, and I think that's what people certainly enjoy. I also find when you're watching the end of When Harry Met Sally quite interesting. Because I'm thinking, could that really have worked? Would they really have got together? Would it have actually worked out? Because they were quite opposing people.
Yeah. I don't know. That is an interesting question, like to think about. I'm looking here at this list here. Have you ever seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days?
Yes, but it's it's not something I've seen recently, so I can't remember it that well.
Kate Hudson, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. I thought that movie was interesting. It's Kate Hudson plays Andy, who places a bet that she can get rid of a guy in 10 days. And Ben also wagers that he can get a girl in 10 days. So that was an interesting concept.
That is interesting
for the time.
Concept. And it's a bit like, you also made me think of another film that a romantic one that I really like was, I think it's romantic. Yeah, romantic comedy, I guess. As Good as It Gets.
Yeah.
With Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about people where...
different take on it because it's a different generation, you know,
where it wouldn't. In reality, I can't see those two working. I mean, I really couldn't see it working. I mean, the characters are both completely batshit crazy, but I really couldn't see them sort of like meshing that well. And then there's another film that talk about different generations. Another one that Nicholson made with Diane Keaton, which is It'll Come to Me. I can see the cover. God, what is it called? No, and Keanu Reeves is in it as well. And that was a really cool romantic.
Where Keanu Reeves was a doctor, right?
Yes, that's the one. That's the one. And it's
isn't it called Because I Said So?
Isn't it Because I Said So?
I honestly, I don't think it is. I can't honestly remember.
Or no, Something's Got to Give.
That's the one.
Yeah,
that's the one. And like you get the other changes in like the age, because I guess romantic comedies are more people who are a bit younger. But then you get the thing where it's complicated, which was Meryl Streep and Alec Baldwin and Steve Martin, which was like a really interesting concept of having a divorced couple getting back together, kind of like almost they are having an affair because he's married or with somebody else. So she becomes the person having an affair with her ex-husband, who's also got Steve Martin on the side. It's like the most insane love triangle known to man.
Yeah, that's actually a really good movie.
It is. I love it.
That's the kind of movie, like, if you're having a crappy day, if you put it on, it makes you smile and laugh.
It is, and it's one I was thinking about earlier today, just thinking that I've not seen it for a while, so at some point you're going to have to go back into the Blu-ray player. But I'm going to ask you a question, Nicole. I know you can tell I podcast because I'm just firing questions, even though I'm the guest. You mentioned vampire things. Have you ever seen a TV series called Ultraviolet from the 90s?
I only watched a handful of the episodes, and I think it's because I was not the right age to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really don't think I was the right age to appreciate it when it was on. And I haven't gotten back to watch the rest of it. But it wasn't my favorite. It doesn't stand out, but I didn't hate it.
Because I kind of like that it wasn't your obvious vampires.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like if they're trying to show you vampires in the real world, because they don't go after them with stakes and whatnot. It's like, bullets lined with, I think, ash and garlic and things. Yeah. And I remember it coming out, and it was like this kind of really weird advertising campaign, because they'd show you an image of the street and using an ultraviolet light, ultraviolet thing showing heat on a human being, saying like they walk among us. You're like, what the hell is this? You would think, is this some sort of program about people with health problems or something that we're not aware of? In a sense, it was trying to do that, but I think it's just a really cool way of like changing vampire lore. And then they tried to like remake it, and it failed miserably. But Idris Elba started out in that. It was one of his early things, so it's really cool sort of seeing where he started out in.
At least we got Idris Elba out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jack Davenport's in it, who's really good. So
yeah. So James, let me ask you, what is the perfect romantic date? If someone came to you and said, man, I need some assistance here, some advice, what would that advice be?
Well, my first response would be, I'm single, so why are you asking me? Are you really sure you want advice from me? I'm not with anybody. My ultimate date. See, I like to do the thing of wining and dining the lady. That's kind of the way I will do things. Go for a nice meal, have a few drinks, probably watch a romantic film of some sort. Depends on the situation, really, and where you are in the whole scheme of things.
Do you have any stories that you're okay to share? That like experiences?
What age range is our audience? How clean do I have to go? Have I got anything I can share? Not that much that I'm trying. Okay, I can tell one that is kind of amusing. No names will be mentioned, but first date. I'll give you the worst case scenario. This may explain why I'm single. Okay. If you're going to, if you're the girl you're going on the date with says, meet me at this location, this pub, make sure you go to the right pub and not a pub with the same name in a completely different area. It doesn't bode well. Now, it does not bode well. And also, make sure your phone's charged, because when you go to the wrong pub and your battery dies, and the person can't get in contact with you, these things don't work well. I did manage to get to the right pub and get some charge on my phone, but needless to say, we didn't have a second date. Here's a learning curve.
That's hilarious. That's wow. What about you? Do you have a story that you want to share?
About what?
I don't know, like a mishap or even a fun date.
I always like it when it's not the most, like, you don't think it's gonna come out, like nothing's gonna come out of it. So my very first boyfriend was friends with a friend of mine that I worked with. And so we were at work and we were both clocking out. And I think he was picking her up because he was going to give her a ride home. And we stood out in the parking lot. We were chatting and talking and whatever. And it's no big thing or anything. We're just laughing. And he was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years older than us. So I didn't figure, what would I'm 18, what would a 22, 23-year-old want? What do we have in common? And so I was just kind of like, whatever, And he turned, like they were going to get in the car, and he turned to me and he kissed my hand and said, "It was a pleasure meeting you. I'll see you soon." And I was like,
that's like right out of a movie.
What's happening to me right now, right? And so I was like, okay, figure it out, ever see him again. And we ended up together for like 4 years. Of course, that didn't work out. Then I was in other long-term ridiculous relationships, and then I ended up with you, which is a different kind of ridiculous. But we've been together for 15 years, so
hey, it 15? Clearly worked. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good.
And we're doing this, and we haven't killed each other yet. Although apparently I did try once, not too long ago.
That's for another day.
I didn't really try.
No.
It was completely accidental, and it wasn't entirely my fault.
That's good. No, I like it. This is being recorded. All bases covered.
It's bad when you call your mom and say, "Hey, so we can't talk to you right now. We can't do any video calls or anything because Brian's in the hospital." And she's like, "The hell did you do to him?" And she was joking. And I said, "Oh, he choked on the chicken." And she said, "Did you cook it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she says, "You're supposed to have life insurance first." That was her advice. Whoa. She's like, "Are you trying to kill him?" Like, because we all know you're not the best cook. And I'm like, who are you trying to, like? She was killing me. She was like full on giving me a hard time. I was like, yeah, I'm a terrible cook, and apparently I'm a terrible wife. And currently, what are you doing?
I
terrible mother.
I put my hand in the.
So Brian, do you have any stories for us?
Do I have any stories?
What?
Plates fell on my arm.
I guess it would be that story.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. You weren't horrendously ill, were you?
No, I'm still here. That's a good thing.
What?
He asked if I had any stories. I said it would be that.
I'm trying to kill you. Yeah. I didn't really try to kill him.
It was a happy coincidence.
I have the worst bedside manner. Like, I am not okay when people like that are close to me are sick or bleeding or anything. I'm not good. Like, I just can't. I've gotten better with the children, but not with him.
Yeah.
So the whole time he's like, I can't, because he's talking to me. He's like, I'm choking. And I'm like, no, you're not, because you're talking to me. You're not choking. And he's like, but it's stuck. It's stuck. And I'm like, stuck where? And he's like, it's stuck. Watch. And he'd drink, and then it would come back up. And he's like, I can't swallow the water. I can't. And I'm like, it's stuck.
Yeah, it was stuck in my esophagus. Like,
in his esophagus. And I'm like, Brian, what are you talking about? Like, what do I do with, like, do you want me to take you to the hospital? What do you want me to do? So I'm like screaming and acting like a crazy person. Because I'm like, do you want me to take you to the hospital? Do we need to go to the hospital? Are you okay? What's happening?
But you live to fight another day.
That's right. The main thing. So, James, I would like to ask if you were to recommend 5 films that people need to check out that are in the romantic comedy field, what 5 films would you recommend? Like if they haven't seen any of them.
Yeah. So definitely Summer in Time. There's no way I couldn't run without one. I would say you've got the tie of Shop Around the Corner, and you've got Mail. You know, you've got the original and the remake. And we mentioned it, but it didn't actually hit me. But I would say probably, because it's kind of a different genre way of looking at it. As Good as It Gets, I would say it's definitely in there. You would definitely have to have. Be great if I could remember the name of it. I've lost my it's the Nick Cage film where he gives, it's the lottery ticket one, which the name's completely gone from my mind, which is very annoying. With Bridget Fonda. So whatever that one is called, that's totally escaped me. Search for it, people online, you'll find it. So It Could Happen to You. There you go. Took me a bit of time, but It Could Happen to You would be in there. And what would my last one be? I'd say it's going to have to be When Harry Met Sally. Just because that's kind of like, it's a tie between that probably. Yeah, no, I'd say When Harry Met Sally. Yeah, When Harry Met Sally. Those ones, for me, are probably the best you can kind of run with.
What about you? What 5 would you recommend?
Mine are all relatively new. So 10 Things I Hate About You, of course. Probably Breakfast at Tiffany's. Whatever. Go.
Breakfast at Tiffany's. That's
a child.
You said Say Anything?
Say Anything. And then Love, Simon, because it's the other side of, like we always see heterosexual couples in romance comedies, but I think it's important to see, to normalize and make very apparent that love stories come in all sizes and colors and genders. And then the last one I think is we just saw it. To All the Boys I Loved Before. Because
that's a trilogy.
Absolutely loved that Netflix movie, and I thought it was hilarious because if you've ever been a girl that pined away for boys and wrote love notes that you never wanted to be sent, that movie's for you.
Yeah, she had a whole box of just the love letters.
Speaking from experience of a girl whose note got out.
I'll have to have a look for it.
It was terrible.
Have a look for it.
Yeah. I would say The Big Sick, which is a very, very good movie. It's sad, but it's also funny, and it pulls at the heartstrings. That one. I would say When Harry Met Sally. man, there's so many to choose. One that I always would recommend is Return to Me with Minnie Driver and David Duchovny. If you have not seen that one, David,
That's a pretty good movie.
David's character.
That's a brilliant film. Yeah, that's
and they have a car. And John Campea keeps bringing it up that it's probably everyone thinks of David Duchovny as Californication or X-Files, but they forget about this film and this particular scene when he comes home from the hospital because he had just had the car accident and his wife died, and the dog comes and is staring at the door, and he turns to the dog and says, "It's okay, she's not coming." And he keeps telling the dog that, and then he just breaks down. Mm-hmm. The film is really deep. It has its funny moments and sad moments and the happy ending. Not to really give it away, but the wife that died is on the transplant, like she's a donor, and somewhere else in a different part of the country, Minnie Driver needs a heart, so she's on the transplant list, and she ends up getting the transplant, but David's character does not know, and they end up meeting and falling in love.
And I do remember that film, and I've not seen it for a very long time. But you're right, the scene with the dog.
Yeah,
that's one that I really, emotionally, that's got real resonance to it. And I also, on a slightly amusing point, I always remember the scene where he goes to the bar, and it's an older set of gentlemen at the bar, and they're kind of like not that interested in him, and the guy goes, "He's a widower." You're like, yeah, come on, yeah.
Love Actually. I love that movie.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in that movie. Rick Grimes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, before he was in The Walking Dead, of course. Hugh Grant, Colin Firth, Emma Thompson, Keira Knightley, Rowan Atkinson, which everybody knows as Mr. Bean.
Liam Neeson's in it, isn't he?
Yeah.
As well, yeah.
Yeah, Liam Neeson. Alan Rickman. I mean, that is probably one of my top Christmas movies and romantic comedy. Like it's a Christmas romantic comedy.
It's like The Family. The Family Man, isn't it? It's the thing where it blurs the two lines, but you hit on it, Brian. It's very hard to actually choose.
Yeah,
5 sort of romantic films, because I realized there's a lot of them I watch. That's what's kind of got me wanting to come on tonight. I'm like, a lot of my stuff is romantic comedies or romantic films. I really, really do enjoy watching it.
Yeah, and then the other one that falls along the same lines as Love Actually is The Holiday with Jack Black.
Yes. It's who else is in it? Jude Law, yeah. It's Jude Law, it's Cameron Diaz, and who's the other? Kate Winslet, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, this has been a really fun episode. Like, there are so many like films that we can touch on.
Well, if you're going to talk about Hugh Grant, would you say About a Boy is a romantic film as well?
Yeah, it definitely falls in. And like I said, a lot of people, when they think romance, they think of just romantic comedies and stuff. Mm-hmm. But like, for instance, P.S. I Love You.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gerard Butler and Hilary Swank. I think that movie is kind of like what got American audiences kind of familiar with Gerard Butler. I mean, he's been around, and of course, like 300 came out and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of been working nonstop.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I know on your side of the pond, Gerard Butler's kind of been around, but when it came to American audiences, a lot of people didn't really know who he was.
Yeah, I'll try and forgive him for Phantom of the Opera. Because that I don't think he was the best choice for that. But yeah, he's good. I like his stuff. He is good.
Yeah, and then when Nicole was talking about looking at like the other side of things, Chasing Amy.
Yes, Kevin Smith.
Yeah,
one of my all-time favorite people. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think Kevin Smith was kind of like he was just on it, like for years and years, the whole Hollywood thing is like it's always a man and a woman, a man and a woman. I mean, they had that stuff, but it wasn't mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like art house films. More recently, well, not recent, the film's 10 plus years old, but like Blue is the Warmest Color,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, the more love that's shown, true love, like how we see it, not in Hollywood. This is how Hollywood should be reflecting life.
Correct. Spot on.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
So Chasing Amy came out in '97. So I mean, there wasn't a lot of gay or lesbian type relationships in Hollywood at that time, that in the mainstream. And that film still holds up today.
It does. It really does. Yeah. No, it really does hold up, and it was interesting that he was able to make something like that. Because you're right, it's to show kind of all different facets of love, and it's the reality of life, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
To complete this experiment, I need sugar cream.
And then I'll just throw this one out there for shits and giggles, but I do love this film, 13 Going on 30.
I was thinking about that earlier. I was thinking, that's one. But that is, I do like that film.
And thinking of 13 Going on 30, there's a film coming on Netflix called The Adam Project, which is produced by Ryan Reynolds.
I saw
a trailer. It has Jennifer Gardner and Mark Ruffalo in it.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I've only seen a bit of a trailer for that, but that could be interesting. That could be very interesting then.
Yeah.
It's good to see all them in it.
Yeah. But 13 Going on 30. And I don't know if you saw the girl that plays the 13-year-old version of Jennifer Gardner in that film. She looks like Jennifer Gardner now.
They showed pictures of it, didn't they, where she dressed in like the similar clothing that the older. Yeah.
Weird. I was like,
good.
Wow.
It is good when you actually see the person does at least bear some resemblance to them. Because I've seen films where you're like, no, I can't. It's supposed to be the younger version to the older version. You're like, no, I don't see it at all. But it is always nice. It's edifying to see the people actually do look like each other.
Yeah. And then see, I keep going through this list, and I was like, wow, why didn't we talk about this one? Okay, so before I talk about this particular film, which has a great soundtrack, by the way, I was familiar with a Irish boy band called Boyzone, whose frontman was Ronan Keating.
They are, yeah.
Yeah. So American audiences didn't really know who they were until about 1998 when they did the No Matter What song, which was an Andrew Lloyd Webber song that they had helped rewrite lyrics for. So 99 Notting Hill came out, and Ronan Keating did the main love theme song of this movie, which of course was a cover of a country song. But Notting Hill with Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant, that's definitely got to be at least talked about in the top 5.
Oh, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. And for a while, Hugh Grant kind of really got locked into those sort of things, didn't he, doing the romantic comedy? And he at least managed to sort of break out and go into other things.
Yeah, and you talk about like somewhere in time where people would like venture off to the hotel and all that. Well, with Notting Hill, they had people that would go to the park to look for that bench. You're like, this is the bench. Yeah, it was a huge craze after that movie came out that people would travel to the UK just to.
Yeah, I knew a girl who lived in London. She said they used to have the problem that people would try and get photographed with their front door, thinking it was the door, but it wasn't even the right area. So, the front door of the house.
Yeah. And then when you look at like your typical like romantic type comedies, forgetting Sarah Marshall and Knocked Up and the 40-Year-Old Virgin and stuff like that, which were like, comedy brilliance.
Yes. Definitely.
All those films. And The Wedding Singer. Oh my God. Like,
that film is one of those films that me and my friends used to just constantly watch. Because we love the 80s.
Who doesn't love?
It's not like the real 80s, is it? But we love the film version, like the 80s in it. And yeah, but Drew Barrymore, Adam Sandler were just what a brilliant combination.
That's like true love, where the guy's on the plane and sings a song to you.
Yeah,
I remember that scene when Billy Idol was in that scene. It was
yeah, chicken or fish, sir.
What else? Yeah, these films we already talked about. You brought up About a Boy.
Well, I'll tell you one that I'll throw in that I absolutely love as a film, and you will, and it borders. Is it romantic? Is it sci-fi? Groundhog Day.
You know what? That's actually on the list that I'm looking at.
Excellent. But yeah, Groundhog Day is just, that is just a phenomenal film on so many levels. Many levels.
Yes.
But that's like the ultimate romantic thing, isn't it? Can't believe it. If I could add to my list of 5, that'd definitely be in there. But yeah, Groundhog Day is a phenomenal film.
Yeah. And then we talked about Jamaica, how Stella got her groove back.
Yeah. That's a very good film.
Yeah. And then here's a good one: The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock.
I've not seen it, but I've heard good things from people who've seen it.
Yeah, definitely see that movie. Betty White is in it, of course.
Oh, brilliant! Anything with Betty White. God, what a shame she didn't get to 100. What, she like 17 days off, but 99 is still good innings.
Yes, definitely gonna miss. Wow, they put Coming to America on this list, which he goes to America to find his true love.
God, yeah, that is. God, you just hit me with like some of my ultimate favorite films. The scene which destroys me, for amusement, is the scene where they're going on dates.
Oh yes,
in the bar, and Arsenio Hall's dressed as a woman. Every time.
And then he spits out the drink. He's like,
yeah, God, I love that scene. But have you seen the sequel?
Yes, I saw the sequel.
It's not bad. It's a retread, basically, but it's not bad.
Yes. I love that they played the characters again. Mr. Randy Watson.
That's it. The entire thing. That was the ultimate part of the film for me, was seeing Sexual Chocolate again. Brilliant. That's my favorite bit of the sequel.
Oh man. 27 Dresses I thought was good, even though I'm not fond of the actress after hearing so many stories that she's kind of a diva.
Catherine Heigl, isn't it? Yeah, she never seems to get a good write-up anymore at all.
Yeah.
No, that's true. She doesn't.
But this was the time when they were taking a lot of books. We talked about P.S. I Love You.
Yeah.
27 Dresses was a popular New York bestsellers book, so they're going to turn it into a movie. And I may have to do another episode about that. Like, are authors writing books to like have good literature out there, or are they just writing hoping that it gets turned into a film? Like,
and that's a very good question, because in the past I think it would have been good literature, definitely. But the question, yeah, you are right. Is it a happy coincidence, or do people more thinking now, will I see it adapted into something? That's a very good point, Brian, actually, to see what things happen now. Because I know when I was talking to Ali Madison, who's Richard Madison's daughter, her dad was just writing brilliant books. It wasn't a focus, I don't think, on turning it into something. And yeah, there were alterations between Bid Time Return and Summer in Time. But he would have had some sort of knowledge of what was happening. But yeah, it's interesting. Do people now think, I want to do this just to make it something bigger than it is?
Right. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a fan of Nicholas Sparks. Like he and Nicole has said this many times, that even though it's a male writing these novels, he knows how to write a female.
Yeah.
Like you see it, and sometimes in movies, you can tell if the writer's a male or a female. Like it seems like he gets it. And I've seen interviews where he says that his inspiration on how he writes females comes from his wife.
Mm-hmm. It's far more better than the reasoning of, and I won't give away the lines, but there's a question in As Good as It Gets where Jack Nicholson's character is asked the question by a woman, how do you write a woman so well? His answer is not complimentary. It's funny, but it's not complimentary. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Here's one that we didn't really touch upon. I'm just going to start naming off titles and bring us back. There's Something About Mary.
Brilliant choice.
Yeah. Especially the scene where he gets his zipper stuck.
Oh, the memories. Oh God, I've seen that. Oof.
Yeah. And then when she had to fix her hair, and she's like, oh,
oh God. Yeah, I was only thinking about that film. Like, another one I thought about recently is the bit where he's going, where's he gone?
And then we got Reese Witherspoon, Sweet Home Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good.
And then recently she did a film called Home Again.
I know of it, but I've not seen that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Let me read what this movie's about. It's from 2017, so it's not that old. Reese Witherspoon is a romantic comedy master, and this one definitely measures up. Packed with humor and real mom jokes, Home Again is the story of a newly separated Alice who invites 3 aspiring filmmakers to live with her and 2 young children. As a romance blossoms with one of them, her ex-husband makes a visit. Delightful chaos ensues. Let's see here. We talked about She's All That. My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
I've heard exceptionally good things about it, but I've never seen that one, and I really feel I need to see
both that one and the sequel.
Yeah, I really do believe I need to give myself a kick up the backside and watch that, because I've never heard bad things. So
yeah, and I like musicals, so the Mamma Mia films.
Again, ex-girlfriend took me to that one. Pierce Brosnan can't sing, but it wasn't too bad. But yeah, it's yeah.
I mean, a few of the actors had some decent voices.
Oh God, yeah.
Pierce Brosnan, not so much, but
well, that's
and what's Bill Skarsgård.
But you see, the singing thing is the problem they got when they made Phantom of the Opera, and for some unbeknownst reason, they had Gerard Butler as the Phantom. The problem is he's not the greatest singer in the world, but the other two people in it with him are really good singers. So it just shows him up even more. The most obvious choice of who they probably should have cast in that was someone like Hugh Jackman, who is a properly trained singer.
Yes. Let's see here. Oh, I love this movie to pieces. Serendipity. John Cusack and the lovely Kate Beckinsale.
Yep. That is, I knew it. It was on the tip of my tongue mentally, but yes, that is a very good film.
Yeah, 2001, so it's 20 years old, 21 years old. Yeah. So good. Wow. Yeah, we've covered a lot of the good ones. I mean, we didn't go back too far because I mean, we could have gone back to the 70s and the 60s and stuff and talked about some things, but I think a lot of the films that came out throughout the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s are people are movies that people have in their minds right now, unless you're into cinema, and then you would know what these older films are.
I mean, I threw like Move Over Darling and Shop Around the Corner, because that's like going back into Shop Around the Corner is going to like, I think the 30s, isn't it? But if you looked at the thought I just had it when I mentioned that we never sort of seen Billy Crystal redoing romantic comedy that much, and Meg Ryan kind of got out of doing that. But of course, she was in, was it Kate and Leopold with Hugh Jackman?
That's a good one.
The time travel.
That's like a time travel sci-fi. Yeah,
that's a good film.
Pretty Woman is another good one too.
How the hell did we miss that off as an obvious romantic film? Because it is an obvious romantic one. Yeah, people love that film. Now, don't have a go at me. I've never actually properly watched it, but yeah, people do love that film.
Yeah, and I think that as much as I'm a physical media guy, physical media for life, that's what's good about streaming. You have all these platforms to watch. Most of the mainstream movies you can find.
Yes, very true. Very true.
If they're not mainstream, you want to find them on DVD or something like that.
No, it's very true, because I was thinking about that recently, how hard it would have been in the past to watch to try and find a hard to get film, whereas now you'll find it somewhere on the internet or on a streaming platform. It's so much easier than it used to be.
Yeah. Like, here in the States, we have, of course, Disney Plus, and we have Hulu, which in the UK, Hulu and Disney Plus is combined for you guys, right? Because I keep hearing that Disney Plus has rated R films. I'm like, not in the US.
That's what got me when the fact the Pam and Tommy series is on Disney Plus. You're like, really?
Yeah, and then like, isn't like Predator and the Alien films on Disney Plus as well? Yeah. I was like, and then of course you have Netflix, Paramount Plus, HBO Max is launching in different countries now. And speaking of HBO Max, the Warner Media Discovery merger got approved.
Oh, good. I'd heard something about rumblings that it had gone through, but
they got the government of approval, and there are talks to save money to combine HBO Max and Discovery Plus into one platform, and that makes sense.
Yeah,
you have one platform with all the Discovery channels, and then of course all the Warner Media channels, all right there.
And it'd be interesting to see what kind of impact that has for films and TV. Yeah.
I think for Warner Media, being owned by Discovery is going to be a good thing, because I hear nothing but great things of the CEO of Discovery.
Yes.
He lets all of his individual channels run with creative freedom. So like Food Network, they do what they do. Discovery does what they do. Home and Garden does what they do. And he lets them make creative choices that they think for their brand is great.
Yeah.
Where if we look at Warner Brothers right now under the ownership of AT&T, it seems like they're just throwing darts at a dartboard and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, I'd agree on that.
I think Discovery will turn the studio around. I think they will make things better for DC Comics.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully, yeah, because if you look at it's been a bit of a shit show for the DCEU, hasn't it, the way things have gone? So hopefully it'll all pull together and create something that will work for people and they'll be happy with, because they're always making the joke, aren't they? Like, Warner Brothers don't give a toss what the fans want.
I mean, and we're talking about, romantic comedies, romantic films and stuff like that. Warner Brothers has a long history of great films in this genre. I mean, we talk about Julia Roberts, My Best Friend's Wedding.
God, yeah, I haven't seen that for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many good stuff. And James, it's always great to have you on, and you're always welcome. I know, with the 5 hours difference.
It's well, thank you for having me on is the big thing. I always like coming on and have a chat with you guys. It's always very interesting and good stuff to talk about. And thank you as I said, thank you for having me on. But I'm going to ask in advance, when the Batman comes out, please can we have a chat about that?
Yes, I plan on that. That's going to be an interesting episode because I believe whether the movie's bad or good, we're going to get trolls.
Absolutely.
No matter what, and the haters.
Yeah.
But James, if you want to plug anything you got coming up, or if you just want to give a shout out to something that's interesting to you right now.
Yeah, the big shout out I'll give is just to the podcast that I'm on, which is Talking Codswallop Podcast. You will find us by just sticking us in on that, but Talking Codswallop Pod. You can also find me if you're interested in getting in contact with me. I'm James the Voice Stafford on Twitter. So if you put that in, you'll find me on there. And I'm going to pimp myself a bit. If anybody needs a bit of voiceover work or anything of that nature doing, I am happy to do that. So just get in contact and I will do voiceover stuff happily for people.
Awesome. And for me and Nicole, it's been great discussing here with you. I know she had to go. She had a meeting, teacher-faculty meeting that she had to do. So she'll be joining us again next week when we discuss something that I haven't thought of yet. But James, yeah, man, you're always welcome to come on. And
thank you for having me. Thank you. That's a big thing. I enjoy it, and thank you for letting me come on. It's been great, and I wish you all the best and health and happiness.
Yeah, and please, everyone, stay safe this weekend. And if you're with a loved one, I hope you have a nice dinner or some nice plans. I know Valentine's Day is not like an official holiday. It's more like a holiday put on by card companies or whatever. But to some people, it means something. It's that day of the year that celebrate whatever it is that you guys are boyfriend girlfriend, husband wife, whatever. Celebrate that love. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. And it's time to ring that bell. And we are ending the show.